He's gonna get. He's gonna fight me. He's a big Viking. He thinks he's awesome.
Hey there, it's me, the Undead Viking. I'm here with another of my Creating Your Campaign series. I hope you're enjoying these. I just got done filming number 4, which was about your campaign races that's in there. And this is going to be about classes. The classes your players are going to be able to choose and pick and play. So a couple quick things. If you don't know what this series is about, this is about how I go about creating D&D campaigns. I have created so many D&D campaigns in the last 40 years of playing D&D, and all other kinds of RPGs as well. Be they Traveler or GURPS or Shadowrun or even Toon. Way back in the day as well. But regardless, I've created many of these campaigns, and this is just my way of kind of just putting these thoughts to video paper, if you will, and maybe helping out one or two of you along the way when it comes to picking your own way of creating a campaign. So anyway, this is going to be about classes. Now this is also like races. This is going to be a very D&D or fantasy esque like campaign advice that is fairly specific to that. What'll end up with this one is that it'll probably focus a great deal on D&D classes, just because it's just one of the things about D&D. It's like what name, race, class. I mean that those three things about your character are like, it's like, I am Coronos, I am human, and I'm a fighter. I mean, that was like one of my all-time most powerful Pathfinder characters ever. But that was, those three things described him greatly. But obviously there was more to it. But as soon as I said that, if I said Coronos, human, fighter, boom, you have an image in your head. So this is going to be talking about classes. Lots of different RPGs have classes, but this is going to be very prevalent. But regardless, stepping forward in the spirit of trying to tell the story here, let's move on. So classes. Classes are the job. It's what your character does. The thief finds traps. The magic user blasts things with fireballs. The cleric heals, and the fighter sticks their sword in bad things until they stop moving. That is the classic genre of the three. Classic genre of classes. Obviously, as we went on and we played and we got into more like advanced Dungeons and Dragons, you got access to other things. I mean, you got the paladin, you got the ranger, you got the monk, you got the assassin. You got the druid. You got eventually with 3rd edition. Well, I mean, technically 2nd edition there was a bard, but bards didn't really. The bards were like that class that nobody could ever get, because you had to. You go back and look up if you wanted to be a bard, like in old D&D. It was like you need 6 levels of fighter, then you need 4 levels of thief, then you need 5 levels of magic. And you actually had to do all these things, and then you could finally be called a bard. It was dumb, but regardless, so you've got a lot of options for classes right now, and obviously, like I can remember in 2nd edition D&D, they had what was called kits for the different classes, and then they had, I remember, they, like, when 3rd edition came out, obviously you got prestige classes, and you got to mess with things, and there was so many of those, like, stat books, where it was just like, the complete wizard's guide, start reading about all the different kind of wizards you can be, and so on and so forth. And those are cool, and I mean, I got it. I understood why people got excited about that stuff, because it just kind of changed things around, and you got different powers, and it made wizards and whatever, wizards and clerics and whatever, all the different classes, it gave them changes, and it altered them a little bit, and people could have some fun. Now, obviously I think prestige classes like went away good, and there's a lot of things that like I thought were, there are a lot of things that we can learn from that period of D&D, but it was best left in the past. But regardless, since then, however, lots of different like things have come out where it's like, oh, there's all these different classes you can be now. You know, sorcerers and warlocks and witches, and you know, just there's tons of options, tons of stuff out there, and due to the sheer number of choices that are out there, I would hazard the guess that if you as a DM, if you just told players, yeah, you know, just pick whatever you want, you know, you're just asking for trouble. Now, that's neither here nor there. You know, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But for me, I like to limit the classes that my players can have. And, you know, just because of the fact that, like, maybe it's part of the backstory of the campaign world, maybe your campaign world just doesn't have paladins. Like, they're just like this mythical knight-like class that nobody is honorable enough anymore to become a paladin. And maybe that's something that, like, it's a quest or something that like your players could go on. You know, stuff like that. You know, maybe, you know, sorcerers don't exist because they've been hunted to extinction or whatever. You can always create your own classes as well. In our homebrew rule system that we created called ED&D, we have like a class just called the Weapon Master. It was originally the Sword Master, then it was the Blade Master, and then we decided to call him just the Weapon Master. The Weapon Masters basically, they're kind of like monks but with a weapon. They get one weapon that they train with constantly, and they become almost supernatural with their ability using that weapon. It's a fun little class that we created, and you know, very few people have played it a lot because it's probably vastly underpowered for what it is. But it's a fun little class that has existed and been, you know, just a time-honored tradition for, like, you know, as long as ED&D, our homebrew system, has existed. It's just there. You know, and we also have a class called the Bishop, which, if you played the old Wizardry game, the Bishops were the class that they were able to cast both cleric spells and mage spells, but not nearly as many as either, right? So, you know, that was something we created, and, you know, and still to this day. And they have the ability to identify and create magic items. It's just like things like that. Like, we added and we created our own stuff. So these are all well and good. But the big thing is when you're talking about classes, you need to decide, and this is, you know, it's pretty simple. You need to decide, like what's available for your players, and if you want to limit the races that are able to take those classes. I'm a big believer in that, actually. I like the idea that, like, if I wanted to have in my campaign, like, the only weapon masters in the world are elves, because they're the only ones that, because, you know, maybe, like, the weapon that they have, they impart part of their soul to it or whatever, and since elves are so innately magical, you know, they're the only ones that are able to do that with the weapon, and able to, you know, become so supernatural with the weapon in doing so. Also come up with some backstories for some of the classes. Now, a lot of these things might be, you know, too generic. Like, oh, you know, it's like, you know, how do you have a backstory for fighters? But you could have a backstory. If you have paladins world, you could have a backstory. You could have, like, go back to the old Solamnic Knights from, I can't even think, Dragonlance. Like, you know, come up with, like, you know, if you're going to be a paladin, you have to be, like, the Order of the Golden Pheasant or something, right? And that's, like, and those are the paladins. And come up with what god do they worship, and how do you become one? And, you know, and just those things. Like, come up with a cool backstory for that. You know, one of the things I really liked about the sorcerer class was all the different bloodlines. I really liked that. You know, it's like, why are you a sorcerer? You know, because you have a bloodline. That was really impressive of me, having my phone, not turning off my phone here. But, like, having a certain bloodline or something that allowed you to be able to cast spells innately, you know, and why, those things. You know, and so, you know, so if you have sorcerers in your campaign, come up with your own, you know, come up, maybe, you know, just whatever. Maybe if you're a sorcerer, you're cursed, right? Like the arcane blood that runs through your veins will eventually kill you. Like no sorcerers live past the age of whatever, or don't ever like whatever their age, like whatever class they happen to. Maybe make sorcerers only can be human, and it's a cursed bloodline, and no sorcerers live past the age of 30. Just that's a rule, right? And so like and the powers manifest themselves when in their teenage years, and it just like and like literally their blood boils away and they die. Holy cow! That I mean that's just like you're creating like a whole like I'm gonna play a sorcerer, and it's just like maybe either A, like they could be suicidal because they know they don't have much time to live, or B, maybe they're looking for a cure. Like that's their whole goal is to like cure the sorcerers in the world, that sort of thing. So like have some fun with it, change things up. When it comes to fighters, well, thieves are easy. Just have different thieves guilds, right? And come up with backstories for those thieves guilds about why they fight. And then maybe if you actually were going to try to be an independent thief in that world, why that wouldn't be a good idea, and why? Because the thieves guilds would be hunting you down to like and either to conscript you or to kill you for working outside of their jurisdiction, if you will. Fighters, you can have mercenary guilds. You don't have to make the players be part of them, but like if they were part of a mercenary guild, then they would have that extra protection. They would have that ability to use that. Same thing goes for wizards. You could have them either be part of mages guilds, or you could have them like maybe the only way you become a wizard is if you become like indentured to some wizard patron who teaches you, and so then you have like some sort of father or mother figure that is grooming you, but in some way you are indebted to them, and that favor can be called in at any time. So there you have like now. I mean, like when I say as I said before, like I am the human fighter Coronos. Yes, that's something. But if I said I am the human fighter Coronos, loyal member of the 9 circles, and that was that's my mercenary guild, that adds something to the character. And then like maybe they even have a ranking, like I am the arms master, Coronos, and because arms master would be like something like a sergeant, of the loyal of the fanatical follower of the 9 circles, and so that would be something that you'd have. And once again, when you add these things to your campaign world, what you end up doing is you end up like adding and breathing life into that campaign world, and you get your players to buy into that world as well. And the cool thing is that your players are going to come up with their own ideas. Try as you might, if you try to mess with the classes a little bit, if you try to change things up with which races and whatever they can be, your players are going to come up to you with different ideas. They're going to say, I really love, even though you said gnomes can't be sorcerers or gnomes can't be wizards, I'd love to be like the one gnome wizard in the world. And the thing is that the gut response is after you put a lot of time and effort into a world that you've been creating. The gut response you have to somebody else saying, I want to do this thing that's outside of that circle that you created, is say, no, I went to all the trouble of making this world. You need to play in this sandbox right here. But the thing is that and maybe the answer is no. Maybe what they're asking for would just totally like break the idea that you've had and the world that you've had. But listen to your players' ideas, and this is something I've said many times over, is that like listening to players and trying to give them what they want will go a long way to them trying hard to enjoy your game and trying hard to enjoy the story you've created. But and the thing is that it's kind of like the one person proofreading their own work. When you proofread your own work, you tend to miss your own mistakes just because you've seen the things over and over again. So when somebody else comes in and proofreads it, they catch the mistakes that you didn't have just because of the fact that it's like they're not reading it for the 100th time. That being said, if you have a situation where like somebody comes in and says, oh, I'd really love it if like maybe there was like an outlaw band of rangers and I was part of that group for my ranger class, and you were like, I never thought about that. I never thought about having an outlaw band of rangers. And you say, well, what class would you be? And I was going to be a half orc. And you're like, I never even considered. Well, maybe there's a whole group of these half orcs that just feel like they're living on the outsides of society, but they're only preying upon the dwarves in my world. Remember the really rich dwarves? Because they see that they have the money, they can take the money from them, but they don't want to draw too much attention to themselves. And so this band of rangers lives on the outskirts of this town, and maybe they're urban rangers. They aren't like like the classic, I live in the forest ranger guy, but they actually like live in the seedy parts of town, and they plot these situations of trying to take down and just focus on the wealthy, right? Just because, and not because they're giving it to the poor. They're not good natured. They just, a lot of people don't like the dwarves because they're so wealthy, and so they know if they attack them, most people aren't going to really care. Oh no, a dwarf who has millions of gold lost like 10 gold pieces. Oh, big deal. They're not gonna give two hoots. So that's their whole goal, and now all of a sudden that's a cohesive thing that you could create and put into your story. And when the players come up with those things and they help with the world building, they'll appreciate that a great deal. So there you go. And I hope this helps you out a little bit. And like I said, if you just want to say whatever's in the book, just take it. That works. That's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I do find that as with anything, the more time and effort you put into something, the more you get back from it. So if you want to take some time and just make the classes yourself and put your own spin, put your own flavor into them, I think you'll enjoy that, and I think you'll enjoy your campaign a lot more. So there you go. If you've ever created a class or had a weird race/class combination, or if you've ever if you remember the old kits in second edition D&D and all those other things, I'd love to hear your thoughts, your stories, and whatever. I love reading about those. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. I apologize for my phone going off while I was talking, but whatever. What do you do? Just be the best version of you possibly can be. I guarantee you, the more love you give out to the universe, the more that universe is going to give it right back. Until next time, you're awesome. I'm the Undead Viking. I will see you on the next video.